Hi, I'm Sean Paul. Welcome to Fake Checkers, a pro-America comedy sketch show we created because here in Hollywood it's become nothing more than the propaganda arm for the radical left. And we wanted to create an alternative that you could feed into and cancel what you don't want to see, like cuties on Netflix. So if you believe in that and you support it, please support us on Patreon, because the more we make financially, the more content we can make for you. And it's time to start getting behind patriots and putting your money behind what you believe in and leaving behind what you don't believe in. My guest today is Siaka Massaquoi, and he is an actor that came out recently in Hollywood, and he's going to possibly be the newest member of our troupe too, so this is going to be kind of like a hazing interview.
Shit.
Checking him out. And so we're going to hear his story and kind of what he has to say. He's been featured on InfoWars recently in a viral video that blew up when he got into an argument with some uneducated fellas that needed their mind expanded, and he did so very well.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. That's a very kind way of saying, I wouldn't call it an argument. I'll call it a heated debate that went my way, I guess. Or I wouldn't say my way, the way of just facts. So, that's kind of what happened there. But yeah, it's kind of been a whirlwind ever since that happened. But I'm happy to be here, man. This is cool.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. This isn't the main focus of the whole thing, but the interesting thing about that when I watched that was that one of them threatened violence against you guys and then walked away. And I feel like that is sort of like how you know that somebody's sort of broken down when they have nothing left, and it's just raw emotions that have sort of been planted in there by the media. Yep. And I feel like that's where a lot of people are right now, is they have these feelings, but they're not really based in any fact.
Well, it goes. And we kind of mentioned this earlier, but it goes, what I noticed, it goes either they try to come at with their level. And I say this from the standpoint of, I was raised in an extremely progressive town back in the 90s, Evanston, Illinois, where, I've heard people say some things about it now, or it's gone even further. And I grew up in it. I grew up in the ideology. And for most of my life, I thought something different, right? And I always would get frustrated because for me, I love history, so I always try to study why people did this and that and the other. But when you get to certain things, and one of the questions that always got me, remember 5th, 6th grade when they were teaching us about the civil rights movement, and I'm like, if this is the biggest problem that's been in American history, why do we keep moving on to other problems? Why don't we focus in on this?
And just solve it.
And just stop everything and let's solve this. If this is the 200-year slavery thing and everyone's being held down, I'm looking around. And my environment, I'm not seeing that thing that people talk about holding them down in that same way. But then I'm being dismissed by my teachers or whoever. Oh, well, because it's complicated. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And it's complicated thing, you start to get to a place because, everyone, you want to be accepted where you are. You know? And still to this day, my friends will always say, oh, you're the guy that always just kind of says things differently. But I felt like I was always saying it kind of within the parameter of what was accepted, right? And then you go off to college and you go off into the world, and fortunate enough that my passion was acting, and drove out here and started meeting different people, and you start kind of seeing and living the real world. I've been on welfare twice. I've been in jail a bunch of times because of my drinking. And so I've seen those places that I used to only talk about. I've seen that neighborhood that the natural weather pattern is ambulances and police helicopters.
Yeah, right.
I've been there. So to me, I'm like, oh, if I'm struggling, why isn't it the thing that I was told that is the reason why, which is my skin color? But I'm sitting back, not doing anything.
Right.
Drinking, being lazy, not taking the opportunities even when they're here, let alone working for them. Mm-hmm. And I'm and then once I got sober from alcohol 4 years ago, I tried before, failed, and then came back. Everything changed. I found, faith in for a program we call Higher Power, but for me now it's just God. Mm-hmm. And trusting in that has given me this I feel like I'm more in the person that I was meant to be my entire life. The person that as a kid, I would always kind of lean towards, and there'd be different messages from adults to try to keep you pressed down, and And I never understood that, and I don't know why. I don't know what it was. I honestly, I think it is God. It was something to be like, this is who you are, regardless of your circumstances. So much so that with this whole process and being sober and you know, getting closer to God about who I am, I'm feeling who I am. So now I'm like, I don't feel like the same level of fear of like you said, coming out. We talked about that, right? But it's like, I'm just being me. You know, and it's like to say come out, and I'm at a point now because of just my faith, and I'm experiencing, whether meeting, you know, someone like yourself, everyone else, going to those rallies every week and seeing them getting bigger and bigger and more just passion, just coming back from DC, seeing that, it's like there's no amount of word salad that can compete with what I've experienced.
Do you feel that, like, because when we talk about the concept of coming out, do you feel like that in the way society was, and especially Hollywood, that there was like sort of like, I guess like a force or just a, you know, something kind of holding you back from fully having a relationship with God and expressing who you actually are out openly? Like, were you being held back in other words?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, part of it was being held back by what is perceived as the level of intelligence. Because like in my 20s, I could tell you all the man-made reasons why religion was full of shit, why the Bible was manufactured.
Yeah, there's this idea that like intellectuals aren't religious, right? That's like the atheists know for a fact we blink out of existence and that's it, because science,
But like as in my own life experience, right? And one thing that I had to accept in the program is that I don't know anything,
right?
And I don't know everything, right? And in accepting that, I could allow what I see as God's grace to affect my life and now be aware of it, where before it was like, oh, that's lucky, oh, you're lucky, I'm lucky. Now it's like, no, that's like, if I look like how can you be lucky from the age of 2 to 40, you know, with things that have happened where I've done things and it's just, that's my life, that a lot of people just for one aspect of their life they'd want that moment. And I've been the football star, you know, homecoming king. I've been the football recruit that got recruited by everybody. Then I come out here and I've been on TV. I've been that type of stuff. And even now with this stuff being in somewhat of a forefront in a few of the different kind of environments that we can be in, it's like, so when am I going to realize it? Right. Like people have said things over and over. When am I, my best friend, Americano, who I do this show with, known since we were 17, you know, he's talking about how exciting it is to finally see me accept myself.
Right.
And so that's something like, look, my intellectual mind can add up my life and the things that add up to where I am now, but the intellectual side can't say, well, that's because of just these factors that I've written down. I don't know.
Right.
Something else is bigger controlling that destiny, that's written that script, if you will.
Yeah.
So now I'm at a point where I'm like, well, okay, I'm just going to play the part because that's the part that I've always been given. So, you know, I got to.
So that part of you is kind of taken over, like kind of as the most important part of your life. But you came out here for acting, and it was going well, as you were telling me.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, you know, we're in this interesting phase with, you know, Hollywood kind of closing down with COVID, and but at the same time, a lot of revelations have come out while everyone's locked down reading stuff. And so there's the big risk by coming out with how liberal Hollywood is that it might have like affected your career, my career. But at the same time, I mean, tell me about that. Like,
I mean, you know, like I think to myself, like, Hollywood's like this, you know, this whole COVID thing has changed everything. And we're seeing movie theaters close. We were just talking about Disney and how much they just lost $900 billion in the first quarter. And they continue to hemorrhage money between Gavin Newsom's draconian lockdown measures that are like production companies are running away just as fast as the wealthy in this state, right? So to me, and we've seen a slow rise. It reminds me of the reminds me of Napster back in the music industry.
Yes.
And those industries, I dated a music lawyer for about 3 years, and like I would see how they were so reluctant to accept the digital world. And now, like to sign with someone is kind of like, that's cool, but it's not what it was back in 1982 or something, right?
No.
I think it's going to go the same way with film and television, because even listening to what their new measure is going to do on The Mandalorian, Favreau is going to do a thing where everyone stays there to shoot everything, the second and third season together, and they're all quarantined until you're done. I didn't come out to be an actor to be locked in a cage. You know what I mean? I came out to express myself in a bunch of different ways, try to see what it feels like to play different characters. I feel like what what we've gotten into, what we've tapped into, and the opportunities I see coming from that, there's one thing that has never been in human history is that there are more screens than any time before. So what do I love about acting is what I started asking myself. What do I love about performing? And is it performing on that television show that will pay me this money that then I think I'm happy, or is it, yeah, exactly, or is it something that's gonna make my heart sing, and like I can use all these skills and all these talents that I've developed over the years and be able to do that, and like that doesn't mean I'll stop acting in a way where if somebody gives me a script, I'm able to do that. I'll love to do that. But if these other opportunities come and we're doing this, we're going to marches, I'm doing speeches somewhere. I've been doing speeches since I was in 5th grade.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, if that's what it is, because I ultimately wanted to be an actor so that I could move people and have people think.
Yep, and that's what you're doing more than any time in your life. Yeah,
right now.
And I mean, that's exactly why I'm doing this show.
Yeah.
Exactly, because it's like, and I feel like that this is a moment. I think we talked about this on the phone, where it's like, I mean, the Bible says that we need to be bold and courageous, and I feel like that President Trump has set such an example as a leader, where everyone like loves to beat up on him, like he had something to gain, but he threw everything he had away. He's lost money to do this. It's not fun for him.
No, I mean, they talk about his little kid.
I know, exactly. Like, I mean, that would
don't
piss
say
me
anything
off.
about Gretchen Thornburg or whoever, but it's fair game on this guy, this kid who is not putting himself in the public eye in the same way as she is trying to tell people how to live.
Yeah, and he's a minor, and so he deserves his privacy legally too.
Exactly.
And they're violating all these boundaries. But I feel like that by him, because what he's done is he's the ultimate American success story, but by him putting the principles of his country above that.
Himself.
Yeah, above himself, I think he has shown that is what's more important right now is our country.
Well, and it goes back to what Kennedy says. That's not what your country can do for you, but that's what you can do for your country. And now, for some reason, that's seen as some hateful, racist thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this flag.
I know, and that's how did the concept come that like America was racist, that conservatives are racist when their party was basically started to help free the slaves.
Well, I mean, it's been. I always talk about this with my homies, man. It's been a coordinated effort, right? And if we look at starting from the Civil Rights Act, right, where all Democrats held up that bill for 75 days, the longest filibuster in American history.
Yeah.
But it was a Democratic president who signed it.
Mm-hmm.
So by signing it, and per his own words, we'll have these niggers voting for us for 200 years. I didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Trump didn't say that. LBJ said that. And I mean, we're on a track for 200. It's been at least 50, 60.
Yep, you're right.
So that puts into place. Then you have these two individuals, Cohen and I think it's Piven, Cohen, but they introduced the welfare state.
Yep.
So you have poverty going away up to that point.
Yep.
Right? These are ancestors of slaves too. They're just standing up for more of the human rights they deserved. But then like everything else, it got co-opted by people who didn't want to give up power.
Yeah.
And now incentives. My friend was telling me when we're in DC, she's like, they tell you don't say the husband's in the home or the dad's around because you don't get the money.
Yep.
And at the same time to do that, whatever they give you, they go after him for.
Yeah.
So if he can't pay, he gets his license taken away and goes to jail.
Yep.
So
Wait, they actually send you to jail for that?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, that's why that's the biggest reason R. Kelly got in trouble back in Chicago. It wasn't because that other stuff came after that. They put him in jail because of back child support.
Which then, I just as an aside real quick, which bothers me is because like when people are in jail, they use them as like extremely cheap labor. It's like 10 cents an hour,
yes,
right?
It's a slave system.
So when you have blacks in jail getting paid nothing, it's still slavery. And so it's like when we talk, this is what bothers me is like there's this whole concept that like, oh, slavery was bad. But when it's still in just a disguised form today, it's like what we really need to focus on is the actual current existence of it.
Yep, and that's what makes it so useful for them, right? Because they started, let's say, coordinated effort, right? You had the late '60s, and then what kind of exploded after that? That summer of love, like the '70s and the flower power, right? They also the same people that control a lot of the media, right? Your Rob Reiners, all those folks. So I call them like the first generation, right? So they had to kind of work with their hands to build it up, right? Then you have the second generation, which is like your Clintons, right? The cool, like, now we're homies, right? Because they know the handshake now. They know how to kind of move, and they know how to play the saxophones on Arsenio Hall. So they had everybody go, he's cool, he gets it, right? So that was the flash and show. Now this third generation we're living in with your Obamas and everything, they just expect it. And much like the rich kids that come out with, like they run around and they're disasters and embarrassments to their parents because they didn't have to work for it. They're so far removed from the work that was actually done. You see them using the same tactics and the same things over and over. And Kamala Harris the other day was saying what Barack Obama said in 2008, like we need to invest in infrastructure, in wind and solar. And I'm like, I remember voting yes in 2008 for that high-speed rail.
Where is it? But Elon Musk has already like blasted past them.
He's gone.
Like a third the budget, and he's already got the tunnels going. Yeah.
So it's like I don't. The way I look at it is like I don't want to not kind of believe in certain things. What I believe is just like, but I can also be a conscious being, sentient being, and turn a blind eye and say that I care about certain things. I care about like children, or I care about the well-being of others, or care about poor. I can't say I do that, but then look around and go, well, yeah, Skid Row's issue is because we have the wrong president, and not say nothing about the mayor here, and not say nothing about the governor in the state. That's ridiculous. It's like I'm finding out that part of it is so many people, and this is a civics thing. I think 1992-3 was like I was in 5th, 6th grade, so it was like humanities. You're talking about history, critical thinking. That's pretty much gone.
Yeah, it is.
So they worked to take that out. Then in TV, and I'll hit you with one of these. Remember the O.J. trial in '94?
Yeah.
Do you remember the whole Mark Furman issue?
Who was that? It was an investigator that planted some evidence.
The main detective.
Yeah.
And do you remember not just the plant, what they used against him as like why he's not credible?
No, I don't remember.
All right, so they say it's because he said, and I'll say exactly how to say it, because he said the N-word.
Oh, that like discredited
him. Okay. That was the first time I noticed, because I watched Jeffersons, I watched All in the Family. They were saying nigger all the time. Then all of a sudden it was I saw them, all the news anchors, N-word, oh, the N-word, the history of the N-word, and I'm like, what's happening?
Okay, so they changed it into like it was a word that existed, because it has become like weaponized, that if you say it,
it's
like
weaponized.
It's like worse than saying Satan.
Yes.
I mean, it's
to a point where I call it a ticking time bomb for black people. A friend of mine who grew up, mom and dad, white picket fence, American dream, says it's okay. He's okay with someone hitting a white person for just saying that word.
Yeah.
With no context.
Yeah.
He goes, because I feel like I'm defending my ancestors. I'm like, so you're okay? You think hitting somebody, which regardless of what you say to the police, it's still assault, and you getting locked up is defending your ancestors? You getting locked up is defending your ancestors who were slaves? Like, think about that logic.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. And that's how the conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Conditioning, it's justified. Then you have Nancy Pelosi said the other day, what you do is you set up the lie. You tell a reporter writes about it, then you come back and say it. People are like, oh, I just read about it. She said this at a podium the other day. And that's what they've done. I say the black community is the litmus test for everything else they've done now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and I wondered about that. Like, do you right now? It's like with the Ferguson riots and everything. It was like really horrible. Yeah. But do you feel like that everything going on right now is just for the vote? I mean,
of course.
It's just totally
just for
like
the vote.
They could just the left just could care less.
They could care less, man. When you're losing at one point they lost 4 or 5 kids in a weekend in Chicago, and there was not a word about them.
Yeah. Okay.
Not one word. It was like 50-something shot, 12 killed. Like 4 of them were kids. Like I think they were under the age of like 15 or something. And you're like, but yet you're screaming at me that Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
When? How? What? Like I truly want people to answer. When am I supposed to believe that you really care about my life when a kid's life didn't even matter to you to say anything about it? When brought up, as in the video you saw, people were like, the guy goes, "Oh, people die all the time."
Yeah, I know. It's just like that's a disgusting thing to say.
But that's the ideology, because the ideology, it is Marxism, it is communist, and there is no, it's following another human being. That's the problem. It's following them as if they are God, which is a sign of the Antichrist.
Well, I know, and that's I do feel when the real Manga Hulk was here, he kind of brought up the concept that this has like really become a spiritual war.
Exactly what
and
it is.
The left, a lot of it is just lies, and it's like they are trying to replace God with themselves. And they want that like to be this like end all be all state that dictates everything to us.
I mean, think about it like this, right? What they've done in the schools, there's 2 things they've done. They've allowed kids to have autonomy from their parents while teaching them that their parents and their history is the worst thing.
Yeah.
What they did in in China, what they did in Cuba, what they did in Russia.
Hitler Youth too.
It's Hitler Youth. So you then go, you see your parents doing something that they've done their whole life. Now this person that you've lived and grown under, that they've protected you to this point in your life, because you go out in the streets with those people when you're an infant and see what happens.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they're the white devil, or they're you don't get it, or you're from behind the times and it needs to be destroyed. I mean, they just pulled down Abraham Lincoln's statue in Portland recently,
which is so dumb because I mean,
but there's no standard.
Well, it's like, and it's like, is it that how uneducated everyone is too? That's like they don't realize that he was the guy that freed the slaves. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That's probably the last bastion of like truth that is allowed about Republicans.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard something. A friend of mine was like, her kid is being told on screen by a teacher that the Republicans, they freed the slaves, and now it's switched. The Democrats care about people now, and the Republicans don't.
How can you have that politicized like education that we're paying for in college?
In
school.
This was in high school. I heard that shit in junior high back in 1992.
I meant grade school. But
still, you know what I mean? Like that wasn't started just in the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's been around for a while.
It's been around for a while. Then you add in, and I go down. It's like in the 90s, they had this drug that went nuts, Ritalin.
Yeah.
So you have all these boys, predominantly, and there's always the real smart, middle class, educated ones that go, he's anxiety, he's hypertension. Yeah, well,
he asks a lot of questions in class.
He asks a lot of questions.
He gets bored by the teacher. Yeah,
which already we have studies that show like girls do better in that type of structured environment than young boys do. Boys need to get out and move around. That is just the fact of life that they've threw out with the baby in the bathwater, and then they're like, oh well, it's because of this. So then it's a reason to drug our boys. So you have a whole generation of men that had drugs and the hormones basically planted to stunt their frontal cortex growth.
Oh, is that what it does? Ritalin does that?
Yes, it slowly calms everything down.
Well, because that's about like forward thinking, judgment, analyzing the repercussions of your actions. So if they want to,
But what that does is it also suppresses the need for adventure. The need to try it out, give it a shot, see what happens, because you're overanalyzing everything.
Yeah.
Now we look up and like those boys became men and they had kids. A lot of those kids are the ones running around with Antifa right now.
Yep.
And so now you have these people who then now you have young boys and young girls in a home where the man doesn't go, that ain't what you're supposed to. I don't know. Okay, cool. I've seen it. Right. And you're like, it blew my mind seeing like my white friends cursing at their mom and dad, like, what's wrong with y'all? And that's being okayed and celebrated, to the fact that 2.5 years ago here in California alone, they gave their kids in high school medical autonomy. They can go to the doctor in the school and they can get anything they want. They don't have to tell their parents. Now they just put 50 Planned Parenthoods in these high schools. So,
yep.
And you can guess what neighborhoods those are in, because they're not in Beverly Hills.
Yep.
So it's like you watch this and you look down the line and you have your movies and television and music all telling you, this ain't shit, you ain't shit, life ain't shit. These guys is a race everywhere you look, from Oprah to Beyonce to Snoop Dogg, right? To then Mark Ruffalo and all these other actors and stars are saying this stuff. Like, I don't fault the people, because like, what else? If you're just and the pressure of just living in this place where it shouldn't cost this much to live here, it shouldn't.
Oh no,
especially
not at all.
For what we're getting for the amount of money it's paying.
Not at all.
So if you're looking up and you can barely pay your rent, you can barely put gas in your car. Every time you look up, the people that can give you a little bit of like relief from that are telling you that that's the bad guy or bad group or bad thing. In your moment, you're like, I'm just trying to be a good person. I'm just trying to make it. So I don't fault any of these people, especially that kid that came up there, because like the situation was set up so that it's like a hoe, or it's like a pimp to a hoe.
Yep.
I'm gonna set you up, so then all you need, a crack dealer, that's all you need is me.
It is. The whole thing is like that. It's like an addictive cycle. And I feel like it's using Sun Tzu's Art of War, pitting everyone against each other. And the reason that it all feels coordinated is like everyone goes, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like, well, maybe. But on the flip side, maybe it's a coordinated effort, because there are people who own these private central banks, like the Federal Reserve, and they have a hidden tax by constantly watering down the money supply. So no matter how much you earn, even if you retire rich, it's just going to keep dwindling, right?
So you have to finally go to the please help me.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone ends up in this like state where they need the handout or they cannot survive. Yeah. And then it's like, it sucks. And to keep us from waking up to the fact of who is causing this, why is this happening, why with this level of technology do we not all prosper?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at them and being like, oh, we just need to get rid of them. There's like 80% or 80 people control over 60% of the GDP of the earth, right? Like that's a slave system, and it's the entire planet. But so by pointing fingers at, hey, blacks, it's the white people. Hey, white people, it's these people trying to take from you, right? It's like the little devil whispering in your ear.
Yep. There's this joke I heard, right? He's like, all right, there's $5. There's a rich guy, poor white guy, poor black guy. The rich guy takes $3, or he takes $4, leaves $1, and tells the white guy, hey, that nigger's trying to steal your money. Walks off. And then you're like, and you look at how it's going, it's like,
that's exactly the analogy
right.
of what's
and he
going
walks
on.
away,
Yeah.
and they say that, and you have things where BLM and these groups, they started with the safe spaces. Mm-hmm. Now they're calling for straight up segregation of the races.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
they're calling for different rooms, different areas. Like they want. Part of redlining was putting up these fences around black communities so people have to stay there.
Oh,
now BLM and these groups are calling for walls for black communities to protect them from white racists.
Wow.
How is that different?
It's the same thing. It's just that's as we're getting into it. It's just the semantics change, and it's like, and it's really effective. I mean, like semantics control a lot.
A lot.
But it's the same thing functionally, and that's what bothers me, is that people don't realize that all the things they're complaining about are still going on. Yeah. And so my question is, and I mean, you've thought about this a lot, like, how do we actually like get beyond it and like get a system that works for everyone? Because or let's just put it this way: what is the ideal direction to go? Because it's like it is this wound in America that we had slaves at one time, and that's upsetting. And so like, but how do we create a system where everyone is prospering instead, and everyone is getting along?
Well, we have to go back to the tenets of this country. We the people.
Yep.
We've allowed ourselves to vote blue no matter who. That is an idiotic, insane way to look at life. When it's like these people decide where the money that you can't tell them to stop taking out of your paycheck, where it goes. That's on us.
Yep.
And everyone was, the system is broken. No, it's not broken. We've allowed sharks, snakes, and evil individuals to have control the mechanism of this system that, yes, has imperfect history, but show me what, if everyone's talking, give me back this land, give this land. Okay, show me what nation, what country that anyone wants to go to was exactly those peoples before you knew about it. You know, that didn't come from the Franks coming down and doing something, or the Normans coming over to England and starting the whole thing. Like, I'll read Tolkien just made up Lord of the Rings to give the English people their own mythos.
Yeah, you're right.
Think about that. He's like, nah, we had the Vikings have their stuff, Achilles and the Greeks have it, we don't have anything. That's why he created that.
Yep.
And so it's like, we have the system here. And most people are like, oh yeah, well, who's gonna be your superintendent in your schools in your neighborhood? Because that's the one that decides like what type of teachers comes in there. Why are the unions so strong? Who's been selling us that where we can't fire bad teachers or bad police officers?
Yep.
Who's been selling us that lie? And if people now, because they've taken away that whole self of like that individuality, to the point you have the African American Museum putting out pamphlets saying individualism is white supremacy.
Yeah.
Like they were asked to take it down, but the pamphlets are still online. And you're like, you're telling black people family structure that has been established before there was the idea of race in that same way, all over the continent, all over the world, is inherently white supremacy.
And I mean, and that's the other thing, is I feel like we're just introducing more racism,
of course,
into the whole like situation by saying that like
that's what it is.
And I've heard people say that like white people inherently like in their blood are racist. It's like, well, then that's a racist thing to say. It's of itself.
And then they go, oh, well, black people can't be racist.
Yeah.
See, they do a thing where they take away agency from people.
Yes.
In a lot of different ways. They
that's
take
what
away
the whole thing
that's
is.
it.
Yes.
So they take away your agency of having an opinion.
Yep.
Because you're a white male with blue eyes. Then it take away my agency from delineating anything that comes out of your mouth and the context of that, and it gives me a justification of defending some ideological, plan.
Right.
Instead of me going, okay, well, what did he mean in that situation? Well, we were talking about rap music or whatever it
right.
is. And so if he did say some words like, well, how can I jump over the table like I'm looking at a Klansman who's like just burned something on my front lawn, like, but they want to put everything in the same. Is the reason why everything is racist, right? Because if everything's racist, the real problems can't be a problem. Is the reason why people die all the time, right? When they say that shit. So you don't focus on this because they're like, no, but I'm more upset. I'm louder. I'm screaming louder about this thing. So it is more important because I'm screaming louder because everyone dies. But this thing, right? Well, what about the numbers?
Yeah, and I feel like that's a whole thing of misdirection. And I have noticed, I mean, unless you're just like completely blind, that this whole thing happened with like exactly when the COVID thing was getting up to people's like necks, and they were about to do something about it, and I feel like they took all that energy and they like pushed it over on this other topic of racism.
It was so coordinated. Like here in LA, and when that happened, and they were rioting all over for 2 weeks, but the first week they were rioting in on Melrose, Melrose, and then Santa Monica, like right over there. But on Melrose, the reporter was interviewing a guy. And I didn't know this because I don't have like a brick and mortar, my own business in that way. And he's like, yeah, well, he's trying to have a good face on it. He's like, well, we've been here for X, Y. He's like, and it sucks because we're just about to open in 2 days. Most of these businesses were just about to open. It wasn't even just people fed up. They were about to open.
Yep.
And what happened?
It was just
inventory gone.
Yep.
Storefront smashed.
Because I feel like there is also, when we're talking, I mean, let's just be open about it. When we're talking about a coordinated effort, I think it's totally about collapsing independent small businesses so that everyone is like beholden to these corporations, which, I mean, how can you justify that these big corporations like Target were able to stay open, but like somehow a mom and pop shop can't do it? That's insane.
So the guy who just does shoes, he can't. How can he compete when he can't stay open at all?
There's a dude in my building. He's such a nice guy, and he's a black guy, and I see him in the elevator all the time with these big boxes, and he's having all these shipments come now to him because he has like 2 or 3 stores of like high-end specialty shoes, and they've all, like he said like the other day that like dudes came in, they like rammed the front gate with a truck, got out with like guns, stole all his inventory. So he's gone totally online now, and it's like he's a black business owner that was thriving independently. And it's like, and he's getting robbed by other black people who are somehow robbing him to prove that, like,
no, they're getting paid to do it.
You think they're getting paid?
No, I know they're getting paid. I mean, we've seen it. When that Breonna Taylor indictment, the U-Haul truck backed up, and we see it goes back to a woman who's organized, and the organization's run by George Soros. I don't know if you have to take that out for other reasons.
No, that's fine. No.
But I'm just saying, it's like, look. And his name's been floated around a lot of these things. These people show up. We saw the brick pallets in cities before the riots broke out. We seen the coordinated efforts that magazines like Time and Forbes say, oh, the peaceful protests had nothing to do with COVID spread. Yeah. Your own eyes telling you it's not 6 feet for 4 hours.
Yep.
And you're gonna write an article to say that shit?
I know. And then they come out and they're like, "Oh no, it's like churches or super spreader events, but not protests." And it's like, dude, and then
not burning cities.
Yeah,
$500 billion, the most destruction in American history.
Yep.
Not this week. History. And it's peaceful protest.
Yep.
And people screaming. I saw this lady. We don't own nothing. Yeah, you don't own anything because in schools I never was taught about credit. I was barely taught about checkbooks, let alone how finances work. Yeah. So you know why? Because then they can turn around and be like, this dude paid $700, and we're like, what the hell? That's what those are the lawmakers put that in place for rich.
Yep.
If you know, and people we voted for. So it's not snakes are gonna be snakes.
Yes.
It's up to us to recognize that.
There is something too with people that seem like they just buy all the input from the left, that they're naive to the fact that there are bad people, that there are snakes, that they like to get into places of power, that like all the bad people aren't in jail. You know what I mean? Like,
no, most of them are. Like the real bad ones. I mean, we talked about stuff earlier. Oh, shit.
Yeah, they figure their way how to, sociopaths climb up the corporate ladder and into politics, and they get power. And those are the ones you got to watch out for. And I feel like it's like, no, we just got to trust them and give like all our rights up, and they'll just treat us nicely.
Well, they do it twofold, right? It's not just give up all our rights. They have to heighten the level of fear to a point where like you're saying with those business owners, your only place you look is, it must be them. Take a knee to that. So look, just even the thing you just did, it must be them. Now, what do you usually do that for?
God. Yeah. Problem, reaction, solution, and they're trying to replace
that. They create.
Yep.
The thing they created, and they go, "Oh, let's turn it around." Like we have the answer. I'm like, yeah, I do too. Quit.
Yep.
Like get out of there.
Yep.
And how can you come out and keep speaking, like spewing this stuff? But it's the thing that I said earlier that will free us, which are the amount of screens that everyone has access to, has currently been a thing that has trapped us. So every new technology in human history, you can see it and you can trace it back, especially if it's a really big boom for humans. Like you can trace it to like the disaster that it causes almost first.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at cars, there's a history of people just burning up in that shit.
It's a double-edged sword always.
Initially, and then once we're able to grab that back, then that's when the acceleration will come. Once we're able to take that back, and a lot of the people who are homeschooling are seeing that now. Mm-hmm. And my godson, I'm fortunate enough to live with him, and he's being homeschooled. And I can be a part of that with other things that fit the criteria of like what he would learn. And I'm watching what he's involving, and I'm like, holy crap, like that's for first grade? Whew, this dude is, I mean, we're reading stuff, we're meditating. He's a 6-year-old meditating for 10 minutes. When would he ever even thought about doing that in school? Right? We're gardening out in the front.
I don't think I've just failed completely. Yeah.
Well, I told him today, I go, me and his dad were talking, we're like, yo, dude, you got to understand, not too many people, and his dad was like, not too many adults can do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're arming him with something that no amount of money, no amount of praise, no amount of like outside stimulus is going to affect that in the way that what he's learning for himself. You know, teach a man to fish, right? And so I feel like that's the thing that's missing. And I think what we're feeling when we go out there is the starvation for, number one, real men to step back up. It is our time to step up.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're doing, man.
Right?
It's like we have to. It's time to step up. Yeah.
And it's not that fear of like, coming out, like it changed, because it's like you're looking around and you're seeing people lost. One of the things I'm seeing is like women just kind of like in this anxiety that now when we go to these events, you see them and they're just relaxed.
Yeah.
You see their actual feminine power that there should be, not try to act like a dude and you try to act like a female. It's like, no, there's a reason why there's masculine and feminine. There's a reason why there's yin and yang, and it's been around since before Europeans had language. There's a reason why there's always balance in the universe.
Yes, and it's not a bad thing.
No, it's how it works.
But that's another like pitting us against each other tactic that's been used.
That's it. They tell women men are the problem.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's I think it's actually even worse because it's like it's all the races it's happening to, where it's like, oh, he's your problem. And how convenient is it? Like imagine if us dudes were told like everything that's wrong is your woman's fault, and she has to like kind of like apologize for it, you know? I mean, it's like that would be so abusive, but yet when it's flipped around, it's considered culturally acceptable.
And then you see these guys. We had at the DC event, my buddy and I, and
let's talk about that.
Yeah, which was amazing. Blexit, which CNN and ABC, and this one guy said something, they lied, and it was like dark divisive. They showed images of black people there, and one of the guys on CNN was like, oh, it's just his base. It's not really anything, it's just his base. And it's like, we know when they say his base, because they've already said his base is white supremacists. They're white supremacists. But you're showing them but black people.
Yeah.
And you say it's nothing, it's just his base. Then first time CNN doesn't put race in front of their story, right? Then like you had ABC calling the speech dark and divisive. I'm like, what? We're cheering, laughing, we're having a good time. Then like the guy Anderson or Andy something, whatever his name is, was like, this is the whitest Blexit march I've ever seen. And I just put a video. I go, you're a liar. You're a liar, and you're sick, because that's how you make your money. That's all you do, huh? You just lie. And I'm like asking my friends. It was like 3 black people, 2 Hispanic. I was like, did you? And we're just looking. I'm like, oh, that's the thing. No more going. Oh, what was it? And that's for everybody. Black, white, Asian, everybody. No more. An Asian guy, he came up. He's like wearing his hat. My friend asked, why did you come out? He goes, because they said I couldn't sing in church anymore. That's his reason.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that it's not my reason, but he's out there, right? And that's what we need to do. We need that. And so we're walking, and this lady comes over. She's walking, there's a woman walking with like her husband who's holding a baby. Baby has to look like probably 6 months. So she walks by, you know how leftists are, like tell you how to live. And she's like, walks by, because we're not wearing a mask, we're outside, right? And so she's like, all right, and then my homie looks at her and goes, you know you don't have to wear that, right? Then it just kind of goes off the rails. Like she's like something about his hat, and I turn around. I'm like, why is he that? And she goes, I'm not even talking to you, or so I'm talking to him, and I don't even know why you're wearing a hat. And I go, oh, why can't I wear the hat? And I was, I can't like be.
We're doing it.
Sorry. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Surprise guest.
We'll rewind a second. Yeah. Anyway.
I was like, so I turned to her and she's like, I'm not even talking to you. I don't even know why you're wearing a hat. I'm like, why can't I wear the hat? Is it because of my skin color?
About a Trump hat? Or
yeah, Trump hat, Make America Great. Sorry, I saved that hat. Right?
You don't have to hide about it.
Yeah, I know. Am I in a safe space?
Yeah,
Are we safe back there? Thank you. So it was like, we're gonna make America great again hat, and I'm like, why can't I? Is it because I'm black? I was like, wow, that's pretty racist, because now at this point I just like to mess with them because I know they're going, rah! And she did. Her eyes popped out, dude, and it was something where if it was a dude, it'd be like, yo, we're ready to scrap. Yeah. And this thing's happening. Her husband's holding her back, like, come on, let's go. And she's like, he's a piece of shit. This, I was like, you're a piece of shit. I was like, you don't know nothing about him because you're wearing a hat and that's how you're acting. Look at you, you're acting like a shithead. And I've said that to her, and he's like, get back, you're not wearing the mask. I was like, you tell your broad to get back. She's sitting there doing this, mind you. In my mind, I'm going, you got a baby right there, man.
I know.
Is this the battle you want to fight? You don't know me. Luckily, I am a man of God, and I try to do, I'm not going to hit a woman like that. I only defend myself. And everyone else around us weren't like that. But what if we were? Now your ass is kicked, your husband's ass is kicked, and now your baby's probably in risk. And they don't care. So you show me you don't care about life right there. Be a mother. Be a mother.
It shows you the degree of programming that's gone on where people are emotional to like the point that like they're basically like a lemming that's willing to just jump off a cliff and die.
She had no idea. Like,
what if she was giving COVID to her baby and killed it?
And no idea, but it didn't matter because she had to prove her point, and she had to look. And the cops actually went over to him, so it was funny.
But what is the point? What is the point that if you're black, you can't support Donald Trump? I mean, like why? Because he's racist? Because why?
No, because they say they say all the stuff they say, but at the end of the day, like everything else, it's control.
It is.
They look at you and go, how? Oh, what? So you know how I'm supposed to think?
Yep.
And they don't understand because all of this stuff is always masked in like, we're helping people. Oh, we're just trying to help. Oh, we're helping. You see, when this bad thing happened here, that's what we're doing. We're trying to help. If you don't have a heart, right? The statement always, if you had a heart, if I had a heart, if you had a heart, this sanctuary city laws, you would actually understand that if a black kid gets in a fight with a legal, he goes to jail. That person goes out.
Yep.
And then where does he go? Right back to that street that black kid used to live.
Yep.
Oh, no, nothing. We help people. Oh, okay, great. Like, you're not following it through.
Yep.
You can't say you care and only care this much, and that shows to me you don't really care.
Yep. But so, okay, I feel like this big awakening is also happening because of the phones, because everyone had the time to look at the phones. And so it literally just comes down to just changing the message of the content that you choose to view, which is why we're putting this stuff out here. Yeah. And so it's like, do you feel like that along with, because I mean, so many people like that voted for Hillary last time are now going to vote for Trump. Like like in the last 6 months, there's so many people who are like, oh, I'm woke now.
Oh, of course. Real woke too.
Real woke.
The fake woke.
Yeah, and like, do you think, I know, we got co-opted from the term. Do you feel like that within the black community, there's a big movement too that's waking up as well?
I think there is. I really think there is. And I think that, we see that where we have 45 individuals running for elected seats for Congress and so forth in different parts of the country. I mean, we haven't seen that in a long time, right? And they're running as Republicans.
And there's a younger generation.
And they're sick of it, like Joe Collins, somebody that I met just going to an event where it's like every Sunday he does almost every Sunday he does like a grocery, food giveaway and a barbecue.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, he's doing a thing where it's like, and it's funny because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. They're like, oh, people are like, oh, Joe, I don't know about Joe. And Tristan is like, look, what I see is the thing that black community always complained about. Republicans never do any outreach. Somebody's doing outreach now. You have questions about this person, but Maxine Waters is cool or whatever. So they use the same attack, but when people are seeing it out there, and I go, that's why it's a time for men to stand up, and it's a time for black men to stand up. And I mean, to go to that event and see these black men, and I get emotional thinking about it, but it's like, it's beautiful, When we marched, we met up, they did a speech, and then we went to the Rose Garden, and there was these kids, they're all dressed in black, right? But they had their MAGA hats. And we get in there, and me and my boy were like, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, what's going on there, right? So I'm like, yo, B, let's just go over there and like, see what's up and just record them and put them on our Instagram, right? So we go over there. I was like, hey man, do you mind if we talk to you guys? Like, what are you doing here? He's like, no, it's cool. I'm like, what do you call it? He's like, the X Factor, the X4boys.org. Sorry, the X4boys.org. Sorry, guys. So it's like these young, teenage black kids from a small town in Georgia. Then they have this other guy. He probably was maybe 24, 25. So I was like, I'm just gonna talk, and then you explain. He's like, cool. So I'm like, all right, guys, we're here and we do our thing. It couldn't have been more perfect. Turns is like what we do is we teach these kids how to make money legally. That's the first thing he says. How to be better men, how to be better how to be better fathers, how to and then he's like, we do other things, skill things with your hands, teach them how to like weapons, guns and stuff, and just to be better and be of use in their community. And then he's like, this is the first trip they've ever taken out of their town. And I thought about it, and I'm like, these kids that are they're in a echo chamber. Their first trip outside of their small town
is to come to this.
Where the president is talking to them. The president of the United States. The country that they're told hates them. Seeing all these other people come up and show support and love for the country. And then later on that night, I'm checking. I always like to check the replies and stuff on the stories and put like likes and stuff on it. And the amount of people that were like, I think it has the most comments of any video or picture we put up. 300. Last time I checked, it was 358 comments. A majority of them not only were showing like, this is what it's about, this is America, but many people, I'm donating right now. I'm donating right now. I'm donating right now. And even a friend of mine, she was like, this is great, I'm donating. Another friend's like, I'm gonna contact them, who lives in South Carolina. I text him that night. I'm like, hey man, dude, have you seen the comments? He's like, I just want to thank you. He goes, we just got more support here today than we have in our own hometown.
That's amazing.
And like, but that's America if you just go out.
Yeah. And that's why I like the power of the internet right now, so we can all connect. I mean, it's like in our interpersonal lives, people can hate on us, but there's other people out there.
That are like, I mean, if you say other people out there, just after that video, for example, right? Love from Spain, Italy, Germany, Britain, Australia. One guy was, hey, you got a place in Florence. We'll take care of you. I see what you're doing. Fight, you would support, keep fighting. Like the amount of people, and that's just, and then there's so many people here. Mother of three was like, at 3, she's like, I'm raising 3 black boys, and I just want to thank you for out there. My 17-year-old loves everything you do, and it's like, it's a real encouragement, and it's like that's the kind of stuff that like, there's no fear worth turning away from that. You know?
Yes,
what I mean?
exactly.
And like, it keeps coming in. So even when people come in with some hating comments, it's like, it's such a joke now because I am seeing firsthand the impact that like just being vocal from something that I believe in my heart and what that is doing. Like, I can't not do that anymore.
Yeah, no, you can't back away once you go towards the truth.
At one of the rallies, this kid comes up, and one thing that blew my mind, he was like, maybe I think he's an Israeli kid. Sorry, getting all. And he was like, and we're marching, and I like to have fun. We used to be in there together. I kind of like to. It's like a big part of me. I love people like that, right? So he walks up. He's like, "Hey man, I watch you on YouTube." I was like, "Oh, thanks man. What's your name?" He's like, I just want you to know, man, dude, you're awesome. You're changing the world. And he's like, his energy is like, oh my God, right? He's like, you're changing the world, and he keeps moving, and it just hit me in a way where it's like, yeah, I guess, it's like wow, like that's cool, man. Like that's a cool thing to have a 17-year-old come up to you and like, because he's the future.
Yes.
And I'm not telling him, follow me. I'm telling him, like, you're free to do what you want.
Yes.
Don't let somebody tell you who you are.
Exactly.
And for him to be that excited for something that, like, between me and my homie Americano, that, like, to feel like that energy when, like, I've been around kids and I've seen that, like, that everyone gets a trophy generation just not care about anything. Dude, that's the thing. See these teenagers like charged up and happy and like smiling and like, oh man. But the other side, everyone's mad.
Yep.
Everyone hates in their heart.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of things. If I wanted to, I can just stop it, and be like, that's it now. I'm not 6 foot, so screw it. You know what I mean? Like, this life sucks, and part of the problem is because of my skin color. Don't let me get you started on my name.
Yeah.
White people can't pronounce it, so I'll never work.
That's it.
You know what I mean? Like, and out of sight of the height thing, that's how I used to think. Then I wouldn't try. Because like, what's the point of sending a resume because they can't read my name?
And see, that's the thing. When you're beat mentally, then you've got nothing. 'Cause
They've
it's like,
won.
Yeah, and that's why I hate when people like beat up on people like Joel Osteen and stuff. Because it's like I get he's a prosperity Christian according to some, but like there's so many voices today in the media and everywhere that just destroy you mentally and try to break you down and make you give up. And it's like only when you decide to have a goal and go towards something are you empowered.
Yep.
And that's like what God gave you life for, right?
Yep,
He gave
exactly.
you free will to exert it.
Yep.
And I feel like that the American dream, the whole idea of the rights that we're given, is that you first off, like you can pursue what you want, you can say what you want, and then the Second Amendment is that no one can tell you a damn thing otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And so when everyone's like, especially like with black people, and they're told like, oh, the whole system is racist, it's telling you the thing that gives you freedom, and the people, the conservatives that want you to have that freedom, are your enemies.
I mean, look at that though. So then they don't ever have to like do anything
Yeah.
because they've already won. They don't have to come and burn those crosses on their lawn and say you better not
burned
go
in the
vote.
mind, yeah.
Exactly. That's who used to threaten and terrorize people to not vote back in
Yeah.
the day. It wasn't the Republicans, it was the Democrats in those hoods that now they wear suits.
I mean, do you think that like, sorry,
No,
it's a
me
little
too.
chilly in here.
Now it's getting cold, but I'm sweating
Yeah.
too. So it's like, because we're getting high, so it's like my armpit's sweating, but my hands are fucking falling off. God damn, I'm getting like frostbite here. I'm like, but I love the country.
Yeah,
You know,
we were warned it was cold.
yeah. We'll fix that. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
No, that my nipples are hard as a rock right now.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
But like, okay, here's another question, because I mean, I don't want it to be all about the white and black thing.
Oh,
but like,
well, I mean, that's how they toss it out. So let's break it up.
let's
man.
break it. Like, okay,
Yeah,
do you
why not?
think that many like black people in like inner cities, when they think about someone like me who's like a white dude, the blue-eyed devil, that they think that what I want for them is to be fucking well-armed, like wealthy, and to have like autonomy and have nobody able to like push them around?
No, they don't, because they're not told that. They're told you just hate them, right? And
Right.
you know, in the idea of the system, you white man, all this. I mean, we've seen it from just like toxic masculinity. A black dude said to me, a friend of mine, he's like, "Oh, that's just white guys."
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like-
And it's like,
I'm
God,
like-
dude, come on.
I'm like, what? So only white guys can be womanizers? Cause
No, I mean,
that song "Papa Was a Rolling Stone" was done by a certain color, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and I have my own history of things that I did because I didn't know who I was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they do everything, and they have the agents of chaos within the community. You know, when Snoop Dogg can be celebrated, right? And this guy, we know what he did to get to where he was, how he made his money before. Then he raps about it. Now he's given every platform from television shows over and over. Now on YouTube, not now, he's done it for years, where he has his own coons list, and it happens to be all black conservatives. So the white races, they don't have to do anything anymore.
Yep, they've already well, I mean, that shows you the power, and that's why I'm trying to do this, or not trying, I am doing this show, giving people an alternative form of entertainment to put money into, because we can just cancel this nasty system that puts all these ideas out.
Well, here's the thing about that system. They're so reliant on dirty money right now.
Yes, they are.
And that's why they want to destroy businesses and everything else, because if you don't have the ability then to go, well, I'm just going to turn this off, they got you too.
Yep.
But because they've tied themselves with certain groups like China, they're not talking about it, man, but I like to watch a lot of reports on Epoch Times.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like they're going through revelations right there. Locusts, floods, fires, and nothing. You're like,
The sky turned black.
yeah, they just had a bubonic plague hit over there, and you're like, whoa. So it's like, that's the dirty money that a lot of these industries that are, you know, from Nike to NBA to entertainment have married themselves to. So, but what the thing that gets me in this journey, and talking about a financial standpoint, and like I say this to everyone, I even said this to a Black Lives Matter person when I talked to him at the Huntington Beach rally the first time I went. I'm like, have you ever talked to any Christian churches about helping, you know, forget assistance? Like, oh no, I haven't. I was like, you try it. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, it's like, conservatives have money and they want to do good, they just don't know. And that's the part where I'm like, it's everyone's responsibility, because they should have been speaking up more.
Yep.
But I'm telling people, black people, white people, Hispanic, conservatives have the money to achieve the goal too. So, and they're willing to take a shot on you if you want. And if that's your values anyway, it's an easy partnership where it's like, in our experience here in Hollywood, there's things and projects that I've done and been on where I got to keep my mouth shut and just worry like, oh, what if they find like I don't want to live like that.
I've lived in that.
Yeah.
Deciding not to.
And deciding not to.
Yeah.
So in this experience that we've had, and I know you can attest to this, I go out, do stuff, and then you see the support come back. Hey, I love this. Keep going. Keep, and then now other opportunities, whether it's coming here to talk to you, other things that are coming up. I'm like, wow, this is the way I always kind of dream my life, because I wanted to be active in doing something that makes my heart sing. That's what I've always wanted to do. And now it's happening. It's happening despite how my mom feels about it, despite how my friends back home I grew up with feel about it, despite what random people that I have no idea who they are feel about it. And in that, I have gotten a sense of peace, man, that like there was no drug or alcohol that could ever get me there. There was no woman that could ever get me there. Did
you feel prior, like the COVID thing happening, the world kind of changing, like a sense of anxiety when you were doing the entertainment, like that you were close but just not fully there?
Yeah, I did. I did this project, and like it was when Howard Schultz. I don't know if you know who that is.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he was the guy. He created Starbucks. Grew up in the ghetto, rose up, now he's a billionaire. And he announced that he was possibly, it was basically for his book, and maybe run, I don't know. But he was like, he's thinking about running as an independent, right?
I remember that, yep.
And they came at him with everything they had. He was on MSNBC, asked, well, what's the price of cereal? And he's like, what? Right? And he's like, but I know the price of the VA is this. Do you know that? And Mia Brzezinski's like, right? And then, it was
no, but cereal's the metric.
But cereal's the metric to find out. He's like, what the hell are we talking? What is this? It was so funny. But then, like that night, Seth Meyers, Stephen Colbert, they're what's the ABC? Not Jimmy Fallon, the other guy.
I know what you're talking about. They got all pumped. Jimmy
Fallon. Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel, yeah.
All of them, like hitting him up, cracking these like billionaire rich white guy jokes, and you're like, he just says he's thinking about running as an independent. And all the news programs were first like he should run as a Democratic. Why isn't he doing it? Then the night shows being like how crazy and evil this guy was. I'm like, whoa.
That's just one phone call from like the masters up the chain that are like,
and then,
and
everyone's like, oh, and
they all say the same thing.
Same thing. And I was on set. And then with the guys I was working with, and I was like, oh man, like I always like try to test people with certain things. I'm like, oh man, Howard Schultz, and then one guy's like, oh, he's a billionaire. I was like, well, he grew up in the ghetto. He's like, I don't care. I was like, so if
someone's a successful poor person to billionaire, they can't be trusted.
And this guy was an old white dude who's been apparently working in the industry for that long, so he was probably doing okay.
Yeah.
So like his success is okay. But Howard Schultz coming from the ghetto isn't.
The hypocrisy of Hollywood is just they benefit from a capitalist system that's given them everything. They have private security, and then they dictate down to us like we're the plebs, and they're just like, you should do this and that, and it's just like.
But that's what they want. They want to serve society.
Yeah, but
they're taking small businesses out of business so that you can go, oh, well, can I serve you these things? And you can. I worked at this guy who's an ambassador to Obama. I was a caterer at the time. Rob Reiner was there. I'm walking around and they're talking to each other. It was like in 2016, so it was like they're like, oh, is Hillary gonna lose again? Oh, I don't know. And they're laughing. And I'm like, geez, they really don't care. And then like I go back and it's later on, and Rob's like doing his whole workers thing, and like he's talking about what the workers want. None of them ever turned to ask the servers running around, like, what do you think? And not like they were supposed to, but he was so sure. This guy who's been, since before I was born in Hollywood elite. But you're going to talk about it's time for the workers and this is and passion. And I'm just like picking up glass like, this motherfucker. I was like, no, I don't. I want to never have to do this again.
Yes.
I want to make my own way so that I can say, no, I don't need to work here tonight, dude.
That's what seems to bother me is there's this idea that the world discovered that I was special. So but you love being a busboy, and that's your lot in life, and you stay there forever. Sorry. No, but they're not sorry. They just literally think they're better than you, and that's and like if you were better like me, you would be where I am, and it's.
Which is something I got to, because I think actually the first time we saw each other was at a Huntington Beach thing. I think did you ever go to a Huntington Beach rally?
I did. I went to the Save the Kids March.
That was great. Yeah. That's actually the moment that in a sense pushed me towards not backing away anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm walking, because I was walking down, I met Major Williams, and who's like, putting his name out there to possibly replace Gavin Newsom right now. If we get this recall 2020 Newsom, we just need to get him out.
We're close.
Yeah, we're very close. So I'm actually going to probably do an event over at the Red Line.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like Thursday, we'll see.
Okay.
But I'm walking with him, and I'm like, like I'm seeing this tall brother who's like confident in himself, and I'm like, hey man, like I see you walking here, and I believe in this stuff, and I believe in other things. I'm an actor, and he's like, I used to be an actor, so I used to do all that stuff, and he was like, I took like 3 months off. I talked to my wife. He has, he's married, 3 kids. Like met his wife the 3rd day out here, and he's like, I had to think about my faith and what really mattered. Being in California for 20 years, it gave me a lot, and so I just had to do that, and it just hit me like, yeah. Like what really matters. And that night, I'm walking my dog. I'm coming a back stretch of my walk, and I'm just kind of like meditating, in my mind, my music, and it's a beautiful night. And I'm just thinking, something hits me, man. A energy goes through my body, and it was just like when it happened, and like I was just like, yeah, like that. It was just like, yep. It was like an answer. I don't know. But it was an energy that like felt like you're good, go.
It's that you knew it was your calling to go in that direction.
So the next day, me and my buddy are driving over the hill on Coldwater to get to the Beverly Hills. And so he pops on a video with Alex Jones and this one other guy. I always forget his name. I'm sorry. But it's a guy who used to be won Emmys out here too, and now he does his own show as well. And they're talking, and he's like, he brings up, he's like, people always talk about like, aren't you nervous and scared, and he's like, he's before he can even like respond, Alex is like, no, he's like, I get the energy, this fills me up. He's like, I know, even and they're all like, kind of,
you knew that they're talking
right,
about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I stop it. I'm like, why did you play this for me? He goes, oh man, I watched it this morning. I was like, Siaka needs to see this. And I was like, that's the energy I felt through my body last night when I was walking my dog that said, you're in now, let's go. And the fact that you're showing this to me right now is even more proof to me.
Yeah.
And then later that day, I had to debate with that kid.
Yeah.
And it was like from
That's
that moment.
crazy.
Yeah. It's
That
crazy,
brought
or
you-
it's God.
Yeah, it's God.
So it's like it's just wonderful to me now. It's
It
not
is.
even like, wow, really? It's like, yeah. Like, how can I script that any better? Put it in a movie and people go, yeah, right. That's not how it happens, And it's like, that's been the story a lot of instances in my life. So at one point I had to ask myself, when am I going to believe it? So then we did, the video that went viral, and you're just kind of like, oh shit, it's just kind of part of, this is the next level. This is where you're supposed to go, and so like everything that's like happened after that, it just, you're locked in. You feel like, I'm gonna say this, you feel like it's the armor of God, right? Mm-hmm. And after that Sunday, next day, wow, I just remember this. So the next day, the church that's in, it's in, I want to say it's over by, if you're heading in like, not La Cañada, but yeah, La Cañada actually.
You're talking about Grace Community Church?
The one that got like fined and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
it's Grace Community Church, I
Yeah,
believe.
so we went there, right? And then there was like this one troll there, all black, trying to like dox people's like plates as they're driving onto the property. We're protesting and standing out there. So those guys go in, I stay out, and I'm talking to somebody, I like to get, kind of go back and forth with people. So then I'm like, finally, screw it, I'm going inside for the service. I go inside, this older white lady is walking behind me, and I'm like, and she's like, is this the right way? Because we have to go in the back. I was like, I don't know, I'm just following him. She goes like, I'm just following you. I was like, all right. And so we're walking and kind of laughing. So I go in, and my buddy and like my other friends has saved me a seat. And then right next to me was a seat too. So I was like, oh, we're going to sit together too. Go through the whole service, and it was a beautiful service. And afterwards, she just goes, you need to check this out. And make sure you read this. Find somebody who like knows the Bible and they work through, because it's an amazing thing. She goes, mind you, we didn't talk before this or anything. I don't know if she saw me talk. I don't know. She goes, because you're a leader, and you're going to be protected. And what she showed to me was a passage about the armor of God. And I was like, what? And she was like, and she told me, oh, I just drove in for Arizona just for the day for this.
Wow.
We never exchanged names. She left. That was it. And she points it out in the Bible, my Bible. She has a circle in hers and points it out in mine, and leaves. I'm on the plane right back from DC. the lady is this lady that I met during the rally, black lady. She's married to, had her husband there, a white guy, and we're talking to each other, and she just goes, "Your energy, I see it, and God gifted me with like, the foresight, so I see the stuff in people." And she's like, "You have angels all around you all the time,
wow,
protecting you. You're fine. God's got you. Go." Right. So that feeling I had about almost 2 months ago, that same feeling of you're taken care of. Go. I'm hearing this from this person, this random person who I don't even know her name is like, arm of God, find somebody that's going to help you. And then it's like, what? And it's like, that's the feeling that's there. That's what can happen. And she said it, she goes, "Look, providence is not fair. So like, it's been given to you. You have a responsibility. So I have a responsibility. And if it's in a little bubble where it's just for, 20 people, that's where it's at, because that's the energy that's the positive and the light that I get from everything that I feel like I'm being a part, being allowed to be a part of right now. If it goes out to more people, then great. But it's just the kind of thing where this feels like it's so beyond me, but it's what I've been built here to do.
And what was your message that you have?
Well, I mean, I just I always think like this. It goes back to why I wanted to be an actor. I wanted something to affect people's hearts, but make them think. And what I hope to put out there is, yes, it's my opinion, and it's my opinion based on the facts that I've looked up and I've diligently looked over. But if it just makes you think something different, then you have a chance for anything different, because you've already shifted that.
Yeah.
Right? If it's gone from maybe this whole thing isn't against me, that's already a chance. That's more of a chance that it is against me, no matter what. What can then you accomplish?
Right.
What can you do when I'm in this traveling job where I was like work for Crest Oral-B, and I was able to, this like presentation company had me traveling around the country for the last 5.5 years, right? Some of the best people I've ever met work for this company, and most of them were conservatives. So that's where I was really learning about people. The boss is a husband and wife team, and the wife and I, it was like probably 5 years ago, had this huge debate about Obama and stuff. And she's conservative, and she's like, and like her husband's like, "No politics at dinner," and like everyone's like, and we're talking, but it's like we love each other. So it wasn't like, "I can't believe you're saying this, you're a racist." It's like, let me hear, because I've always wanted to be able to, because I live in LA, I grew up in Chicago, so I'm always hearing the same people. I'm not like able to go, "Yeah, I want to tell you what the truth is," right? So I'm like, let's be in here, because this is not about hate. This is about like, I'm trying to understand why you think that, because I think I'm right. So let's see what's up. So we're going back and forth, and then it slowly went to a place where, then as I started looking up, then 2016 hit, and those who were devout left, Democrats, their obnoxiousness. The fact that a lot of them have been working for the same people in the same company for at least 12 to 13 years, where they paid for them to travel around the world. Not just, go to Tulsa, no, Dubai, Canada, Hawaii. They're paying for them to do this. And now they're posting stuff. All Trump supporters are racist. And I'm sitting there thinking, why? I know these two. You know these two better than I do. They've come to your wedding. They've been there for your kid's birth. They don't count in the Trump supporters when he's wearing a hat at a rally, the first rally, just being like, "Yo, I like this guy." And now you're going with the narrative someone else tells you of people you've known. One guy, I've known him since the inception of the business.
Yeah.
And if that was something that, because I do believe in loyalty.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, these people, you're paying for them to go away from the families, just get away, something to break up their monotony of their life. Right? Because a lot of them married kids and stuff, and like, I'm the actor in Hollywood, and me and some friends were young doing that, so they kind of look, "Oh man, I wish I could," right? And it's like, how could you, where's your standard? Where's your loyalty? And that was one of those moments where I'm like, it really threw me off. And the beautiful thing is, because those two, at one point when I was sober and I went out, when I was working with them, and the boss that I worked directly with, she was like, when they pulled me aside, "I'm only saying this because I love you." Then I get home, and the owners, husband and wife, call me, "Hey, we're only saying this because we love you," and we talked and stuff, and it was a lot of emotions exchanged, and they're like, "Look, whatever you need, we're here for you." I was like, all right. And I've heard that before, but I'm like, I'll do it myself. Can't trust it, right? And they were. They took me back with open arms. They asked me, hey, do you think do you need time off or can you handle it? And I was like, no, I can handle it. That part of that was pride. I probably should have been like, I need time off. But before we hung out, I started going back to AA. Like, I didn't go back within the first, because I was still like, I think I had like a month before the next job. So I was still like struggling and trying to figure it out and be like, how can I, and then I went back. And ever since then, it's like something else has been opened up. And even the guy, he's like, dude, you have a gift. You have a voice. You may want to think about using that.
Right.
He said that to me like 4.5 years ago, 4 years ago. And I'm like, acting, right? And he kept saying it. And these people are people that, they're all right. They can be like, you know what? We don't want to deal with it. Good luck. No, but they stuck with me. And those are the same people that have been around them and paid by these individuals for over 10 years, then were being called Nazis and racist. And it's like, that was one of the first, to me, atrocities that I saw, in the sense of, what matters to you in life, man?
Yeah. What is your hierarchy of importance? Yeah.
Right? Like, if you say we're this and we're laughing, we're together, we're doing this, and it's like, but you're waiting for a reason. I don't know if I ever want to associate with people like that.
Yeah, because they don't really care about you.
Me.
Yeah.
I'm a human being. I'm gonna mess up.
Yeah.
That's part of this game. That's the promise of being a human. You know what I mean? That's a guaranteed promise. That and death. And so it's like, if I can't like mess up and try to ask for forgiveness from people around me that I consider close, then what is the purpose of life?
Yeah.
And that side is always like that. And I just can't really do that anymore, because I've seen it doesn't help me.
Yeah.
It doesn't help me trying to be there for my godson, to try to help him be a better person and teach him lessons, because I see his mistakes and I see where he can like lean into and be like, oh, well, it's because of this. And I'm like, you know what, you're right, buddy. No, that's irresponsible. I've struggled with that. I mean, all the opportunities, dude. I couldn't tell you all the opportunities that I've let go because I was hungover, and I gave up on myself, and I like blamed everything else for my problems. All the opportunities, and I still got amazing opportunities after that, when I decided to settle in and trust. So, I don't need some kind of like theoretical, kind of like design to tell me exactly what it is. It's like, I've just seen it work in my life.
Yeah.
I've just seen it work, and it is, you mentioned earlier, it's a spiritual battle.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual battle. It's either God or man.
Yep. Well, and from what you're saying, what I was going to say earlier is, I feel like that the whole system, because like when we have that energy, as a kid, but then it's somehow the whole system, I feel like, is designed to get us off of that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I feel like that, but like I feel like God keeps calling you, and eventually, it's like you either ignore it and it's just your life is painful
miserable.
and you're miserable, or you finally accept it, and then everything starts to kind of get on track. And I feel like that's by design.
Yeah.
And that it is a spiritual war. And I feel like that this is literally, we are in the middle of the battle for not just America, but for the fate of the world.
The world.
Because America's like the last country where we have the guns and
freedom of speech. No other country has those two in their constitution. No other country.
Yeah, and so it's like, and look at countries like Australia, where they've taken it away. Now it's like they're going to force vaccines on them, and they can't. And you even say anything against the government at all right now, and they come to take you to jail.
Yeah, you're done. They're doing it straight up, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Canada's really close to that if they're not doing it in some places.
And so for anyone to be like against sort of the freedom of speech and the Second Amendment at this point, like personally, I can't believe anyone would even be a liberal anymore, like with what's going on. But it's just, I think it's just because unfortunately they're blind to it.
Yeah, they are, and they don't look beyond. They don't look beyond their station. They don't look beyond exactly where they are, right? Because also, again, remember, it's been worked in for a long time. And it's not like just 2 days ago they were like, hey, we're going to do this. And everyone's like, what? No, it's like, it's been conditioned. It's been conditioned to think. I always say the black community is a litmus test that they use for everything else.
Yes.
One of the things
that's what it's going to look like for everyone eventually.
Right?
Yes.
It's like, if anyone wants to know what does it look like when the state runs a community, look at the black community.
Yep.
No fathers, young boys and girls running around trying to figure it out on their own, and mothers just like living off the government, and guys and fathers running all over the place.
And then
right?
injecting drugs into the whole thing, which, you know.
If it's not the drugs from the street, then it's some kind of vaccination that's making your kid, giving your kid problems before they're 300 vaccinations before when they're babies. Like what?
Yeah, well, and I meant that from
racehorse.
I meant that more from like having this whole like war on drugs thing because
but they do it. No, I'm saying they do it on both sides.
Exactly.
So the educated, wealthy ones, it's the vaccinations and all that stuff. The poor people, it's the street drugs.
Yeah, but I think that the same people are profiting off of that on both ends.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing is like we could just legalize them, tax it, make great education. It's
That'd be if the objective was to actually help people.
Exactly.
And then that's not true. And you're talking about the energy, and it reminded me what we mentioned earlier was like having teachers like trying to hold you in your place is something that's something that was in the movie Malcolm X. Remember that movie, Spike Lee and Denzel, where it's that scene where the teacher's like, maybe you want to think about working with your hands, right? And I was like, oh, that's what they used to tell young black kids because they're racist. And I was saying the thing about like I took this test, and like I did bad on the test in 5th grade, and so teacher was all concerned about me and everything. And then like I'm like, okay, I gotta do better next time. I thought this to myself.
Oh yeah.
And so then I'm walking around. A couple days later, I'm just living my life, enjoying my friends, go to school. That's where you get to, you're a kid, so it's either your folks or you're with your friends at school, right? And so this black teacher, man, comes over to me. He's like, Siaka, I want to talk to you. He goes, puts his arm around me. He goes, man, teachers are concerned that you're not taking that bad grade seriously. I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm supposed to do today, like right now. I'm like, the only thing I can do is do better on the next test. Mm. And that was like the first moment that like I fought against someone trying to tell me I should feel bad today for something that happened and that I have no control over at the moment in time. I need to still feel bad about it. Why would you tell that to a black kid? Then we doubled down on the stuff my mom told me just recently. So there was a time where like in that, it was the same class, same teacher. And like I was a boy, I talked all the time. Like I didn't care, to be honest with you. Like I was like, whatever. I just didn't put in the effort. That's the truth. It wasn't because I didn't understand it. I just didn't care. And so we had this teacher parent conference. There was this thing where the teacher was like wanted to put me on like some kind of special drugs or whatever, right? And my mom having a master's in nursing, she was like,
Yeah.
She was like, no. And so then she had to come back with a meeting with the teacher and the principal. And so my mom brought a friend because she goes, I knew she was going to bring someone, and she brought that black teacher. And so they're talking all this stuff, and the teacher says to her, the black man in this leftist liberal area tells her, oh, maybe Siaka should go in the special ed class. All his friends are there. I've been in honors classes my whole life. So why would you insist on that unless we know more kids in special ed, more money the school gets? So it's just
was that the case?
Oh, it is. That's why everything's like a different group, because if you can have these different groups, each thing has to be funded differently, so that's more money for the school.
So the thing, like they tell everyone like, oh, like we'll raise taxes, but then everyone will get more. But the whole like I had a friend that did like a hard time for a long time. And he said they try to get you in the hole because then when you're in the hole, they say you're depressed, and so then they stick you on like psych meds. That then it's like $180,000 a year or something extra that they charge because they're private jails. So it's like they're basically just trying to get people in this thing where they get them drugged up.
That's it.
For profit. And that's so sick.
Dude, and the worst thing about that is that my mom too, she was like, oh yeah. She was just telling me like a matter of fact story about it, not like upset. She was like, oh, this is what happened. She goes, the crazy thing is most of the black mothers, single mothers I talked to all said the same thing, but they said okay to the teachers because the teachers knew best. That's in Evanston and in Chicago.
So every black kid's like in special ed essentially?
I mean, if they can get them in there, they did.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So these guys who are quote unquote can't focus because they have energy and they're boys, and you need to give them a sense of purpose.
Let them go outside. Teach them numbers by giving them big balls to go move around. And
right,
stuff.
or like in construction, so you can see it in a different way.
Build something. Be like, hey, build this. Give them models to build.
And then you can have them design it, because architecture, they make a lot of money, right?
That's the thing, exactly. It's like you could literally start teaching architecture to boys at the age of 8, 7.
Minecraft.
Yeah.
I've seen my godsons play Minecraft at ages 4 and 5, and they're like making cities. I'm like, holy crap! Why are you giving that design away for free, huh? No. So it's like, but it's like They don't do that, right? Because it's not about that. It's about the control. And that's the thing that gets me. And I'm hearing this stuff, and she tells me that. Then she tells me my brother at the time, who was going into kindergarten, they gave him a test to place him, right? And so she goes to talk to the teacher, and the teacher's like, oh, well, yeah, he failed. She's like, oh, let me see the test. He's like, oh, it's down at the headquarters. She's like, oh, okay. My mom, being who she is, a Liberian woman, she's not gonna just take the, okay, you said it, so it's good. No, I need to know. She's educated, master's, you know what I mean? She drives to the headquarters. She's like, oh, I want to see the test from my son to the teacher, the person there gave it to her. She's like, that's weird though, because the teacher should have your test. So you shouldn't have to come here. She checks the test. She goes, not only was it like all over the place, and the wording for like a kid going to kindergarten was all over the place, but some things they marked wrong were right.
Oh my God.
To place him below where he probably should have been.
Wow.
So, and that's why I never blame the people, because if you're going to this school and you're sending your kid to a trusted place, a young black boy, you're a single mom just trying to hold on and make it happen, and they're telling you, oh, your boy has a problem.
Well, that is systemic racism then, but...
That's exactly where it is.
Yeah, I mean...
So they are, everything they scream, that's who they are. It's systemic racism. Yeah, because you're doing it.
Wow.
It's not because it's happening over this, because it's happening because you're doing it.
Wow.
Everything. Look at every argument they have. That's who if they talk about sexism, they're the sexist. They talk about racist, they're the racist. All of it.
Are you a big proponent of having like homeschooling then?
Oh, they should.
Yeah.
Homeschooling should happen. I mean, when you have the LA Unified School teachers talking about defund the police, Black Lives Matter, defund charter schools, pay for our sick leave, and fund non-citizens, pay for them to live here. That's your demands before you come back and teach the kids how to read, write, and understand numbers. Yeah, no, that's not what school's for.
Yeah.
School's to prepare these kids so they can be components of our country and help our country grow. Not to be up there and just wait till somebody goes, now go, and they go, ah, and in the streets like we're seeing in Portland, seeing in Seattle, we've seen here in Los Angeles, we've seen in Chicago, we've seen in Baltimore, we've seen in DC, we've seen in Oakland, you see New York. Name the liberal city, you see it. Because they've been dumbing down the community over and so if you do it in schools, you do it on TV, you do it on film, you do it in music. The music's rhythmically simplistic.
Yeah.
Over and over. Kind of like a hypnotic tone.
Yep.
Over. And all they say is hoes, bitches, fucking, nigga, killing, money, get that. Like,
why do you think deep down, I mean, I've wondered about this, like, because it does seem like the people like way up the chain actually have something in for African American people. Why?
Because we're more emotional creatures. It's because they've established black communities. I mean, from slavery, because they were, some of the threats they used were like, you get eaten, we'll eat you. So from that idea, then when slaves got their emancipation and they were starting to free themselves, independently, then you had the terrorism that continued in a bunch of different ways. So now you're at a point where most black people are just scared. That's what it is. They're scared of their own shadows. But at least the ones that I've met, they're more scared. Oh, I can't. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm growing up hearing what I can't do from black people. Oh, black people don't swim.
So it's disempowerment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a black friend that I tried to teach him to swim, and he was convinced he couldn't.
Yeah.
Because of that. I mean, it's
crazy.
Well, some black people are negative buoyant. I mean, but David Goggins talks about that. But
still, the idea that black people don't swim when there's a continent of Africa that's surrounded by water.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like what?
Yeah.
That doesn't even it doesn't even add up, right?
Yeah.
But it's like something people believe. Or black people are scared of dogs. Black people don't like hockey. Black people didn't like golf till Tiger Woods came along.
Yeah, exactly.
So all these things that they already, before you even go out into the other communities, if you will, they're already telling you what you can't do.
Yeah, 100%.
My white friends I was always hearing parents, this is what you can do. And a lot of black friends, no, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't, you can't. And you're like, it's a really different of philosophies.
Yep.
One side saying you can do whatever you want. Other side saying, well, just because you did doesn't mean everybody else can. And you're like, damn. I mean, that's before I even come into interaction with you, dude.
Yeah. So it's a philosophy of disempowerment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea that the people that would like to be your friends and help empower you are...
Inherently.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. It has to be inherent.
Yeah.
It's do you ever heard of the term therapeutic alienation? So in this book, Winning the Race by John McWhorter, it calls Beyond the Crisis in the Black Community. Like, I have to read it in stages because every time I read something, I'm like, what the, like how come everybody doesn't know the history here? How come people didn't know all this stuff? And like, so basically, and it's not, I can't quote it, but therapeutic alienation, it basically means despite personal like experience and information that you are living, there has to be an oppressor type that is fundamentally incapable of redemption. So it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you do. It has to be.
There's a boogeyman
always. Just like, oh, you're a man, you don't get it. Oh, you're a white guy, you don't get it.
Well, that's the thing. There's a million boogeymen in our world, and it's like, honestly, it just feels like red tape everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like there's a, what is it, the Resident Evil, where they have to like matrix through like these like lasers, and you get cut up if you don't. And that's how it feels.
But that's all by design. That's all by design. And so they set this thing up, they set the game up, and then tell you, well, the game's rigged because of someone. Again, the dollar thing I was saying. Right?
Yep.
If it's all set up like that, and then people forget that everything that they do, everything they have to do and want to do, it has to be accepted by the people first. Mm-hmm. If people didn't want all the surveillance that happened after 9/11, it wouldn't have happened. People are like, you know what?
To get them to want it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You have to.
And then look at the NSA, like how just big it got afterwards.
Right? Because once you then give them the okay, then they'll go wild with it. It's why I believe that everything they said from the Russiagate to the impeachment, all this stuff, it was them. They need the people to come out and vote.
Yep.
This mail-in stuff is going to be so fraudulent, and they know it's already. We're seeing it. That's not what the win's going to be anyway. Because if the numbers come out and blow them away, which we're seeing already, people are going to come out. People are coming out every week for Beverly Hills.
Yep.
You're not going to go vote, right? And this is the other side. And I want to go into ideology for a second. It's like what they've been teaching, and they're talking about people on the left. I'm watching people not even want to walk outside by themselves with a mask off. Those people are going to go into a voting area.
Yep.
As much as people on the other side.
Yep.
So I'm going to believe a mail-in ballot that I got 2. One from a guy who's been dead for 4 years in my house.
Really?
Yep. One friend got 3, 1 for him and 2 for people who've never lived there. He's lived there for 7 years. So, yeah, there's going to be fraud, and it's going to be like even more rampant in these blue states, and we got to be careful in places like Nevada and Texas because they do have those fools over there too.
He's still going to win though.
He's going to blow it out the water. It's going to be a blowout. It's going to be chaos because at the end of the day, it's still they're
going to challenge it.
They're going to challenge it, but. That's why this system, when they want to burn it down, because this is the best system that's ever been created. Yeah. They have the 3 branches of government for a reason. Yep. So they can't do that, but they need the people to go, no, we don't want this anymore, burn it down. They need that. And if they don't have that, and they don't have that political will, they don't have it, so they need the vote, because then they can enact everything.
And that's why all this is happening right now.
That's it.
They're just trying to manipulate every vote they can.
That's it, and you know what, I mean, like I was talking to a friend yesterday, it's like, you got to come to these events because you're going to see it. You're going to feel it. And it doesn't matter what they say. And just like everything, and he's a guy that I've known from program as well, just like ourselves and what we learned, actions speak way louder than words. And right now, man, and this whole thing and sitting here with you and everything that we've been a part of and everything that I've experienced, those are real tangible actions. Everything they're talking about, from lying about who was at this Black and Latino event over the weekend, we know the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So honestly, I'm not concerned about the truth of who's going to win. It is going to be chaos. We've already seen they will allow blood on the streets. We've already seen it.
I know they're killing Trump supporters. Yeah.
They're killing Trump supporters. They're killing their supporters. They're allowing black people. They're defunding, allowing these people who are supposed to be their supporters to just be killed, just slaughtered, really. So. Those things, just like anything else, just like when Jesus was going, it's like, look, they're going to do whatever it takes to shut you down. But if that's an example that he has shown us, even on the cross, he was like, nah, I'm not going to forsake my belief. Yeah. And look where we are now. Yep. Look what it has honestly done to the world in the long run. It's brought us this far. Yeah. Exactly. And so, history of the world, I've looked, God always wins. Our time is different, but something's happening where... Something is happening. Sports, entertainment, celebrity, these politicians, it's all kind of crumbling at the same time. Yeah, so it is. But God's hand is on Trump, and and on us, and he's setting an example. And I feel like somehow that's unlocked it for other people to then do it as well. Give us our agency back. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Yeah, and then no one's ever gonna shut me up again. They're gonna have to do something else. But I'm never gonna be afraid to speak my heart and my mind ever again.
Me neither. So with that, speak your heart and your mind.
Yeah.
Preserve your freedom no matter what.
No matter what.
And get ready for Trump
Oh
to
man,
win.
and not as big, but shit, I got work to do.
The only thing that matters is the power of the mind.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, man.
Thank you,
really
sir.
appreciate
I really
it.
appreciate this too, man. It's so great. That was
All right.
cool, man.
Till next time.
Yes.
All right. Signing off.